Wow. Woo.
Welcome. I'm going to introduce myself before I sit down because unlike Big Hoop, you will not be able to see me over the microphone. We are on a live podcast. This will be on YouTube. So if you are in the witness protection program, we ask you to excuse yourself now. Our videographer, Miguel, give him a hand. He is here to film you all. And so as we take some Q&A later, he'll zoom in, but also during the podcast, he'll be panning the crowd. So I just wanted to say that that's the official photo release there. But Andrew and I are excited. I want to give you a quick introduction to Hanging with the Hoopers, those of you who haven't followed the channel yet. Andrew came into the title industry 2 years ago from JP Morgan Chase. He was the market expansion guy, so he hired a lot of people. He coached a lot of branch managers. And so when he came to the title industry, he and I were kind of talking. I do a lot of speaking around the associations, and I said, bro, I need to get inside of your head. I need to get other people inside of your head. How can we do that? And so one of our good marketing friends, we were all brainstorming. He said, you guys should do like Hanging with Mr. Hooper, kind of like a spin-off of, do you remember Hanging with Mr. Cooper? Okay, so we kind of started chewing on that, and so thus Hanging with the Hoopers was born. So this morning, we're going to do just that. I'm going to dig into Andrew's head a little bit. We're going to do some brain surgery.
It's a scary place.
And we're going to hear from you guys, but have a fun time. So welcome to Hanging with the Hoopers.
Thank you for being here. Awesome.
All right, bro. Well, I'm excited to be back in the studio with you today.
Big studio. This is a fun studio. Thank you all for being here. Live audience, MLTA Convention.
Absolutely.
So Hang with the Hoopers, all about what, Tim?
Attitude of leadership.
The attitude of leadership. And if it's a leader in the room, if it's you're leading yourself, you're leading a part of an organization, this is for you. We talk about a lot of leadership strategies. We talk about a lot of practical things. I think with our podcast, if you ever watched it, my big thing is what can we actually take and do? I think sometimes there's a lot of fluff, there's a lot of things said, but in the end, are we getting something done? Yeah. So hopefully for everyone in the room, there's a good nugget in here for you today. Yeah. So, but we're glad to be here.
Anybody heard the quote, when all is said and done, more gets said than done? Okay, I've attributed that all my career to Henry Ford. Anybody else attribute that to Henry Ford? So then this bozo has to go to Google and look it up, and he texted me the other day. He said, bro, Aesop said that. Yeah. I'm like, oh my.
Yeah, I think it's Aesop. I think it's Aesop. Any fact checkers in the room, feel free to fact check where the quote comes from. But we thought it was Aesop. But yeah, in the end, more gets said than done. Right. And in sales leadership and in a down market, I think to set the stage, Tim, we're in the midst of a economy and a market where we thought, like by 3 months ago, we were going to start seeing some improvement, right? And we all probably felt that when we first got into this market where rates started increasing and inventory issues started happening. And we're now looking at, hey, it's probably going to be another 12 months of sluggish market. Yeah. It's an election year. There's so much that goes along with that. And we have the honor and privilege of speaking and coaching a lot of teams. Yeah. Getting we say we're in the trenches, from the trenches to the trenches. So we're out there with you guys. We're having conversations with realtors. We're having conversations with lenders. We're having conversations with consumers. And it's sluggish. It's rocky. But there's a way to approach it that we believe will help you weather the storm in a way that's not only positive for your business, but I think sometimes we can weather the storm and hurt our good team members in the process, or hurt people on our team in the process because we get stressed out. Yeah. So we're going to kind of start with that, Tim. So
absolutely.
Take us through.
And really from the standpoint of leadership, why leadership in sales is because, as Andrew said, we see it go wrong so often. And it's really helpful having kind of that third party, kind of the coach voice, the third party come into your organization and kind of hear things, see things. We do surveys with teams. So every time we coach a team, everybody on the team takes an anonymous survey that ownership doesn't get to see. And by assuring them of that, we get some raw feedback. And my goodness, when we zoom in with a title agency owner and say, hey, here are some of the things. Now, they don't know who or what, but here's the tone. And it's amazing, especially in this down market, the morale. It's down. And so as leaders, as a salesperson in the room, as a sales leader in the room, what are we going to do in the next 12 months? Not just to go preach, grow business, but grow yourself. And I'm here for you. So we're going to dig deep today into some strategies that you can take and hopefully implement with your team. When you leave out of here, if you take one or two things to go execute with your team, it's going to be powerful. And here's the other thing. Like, I heard this yesterday. Somebody was talking and, it's an election year or hopefully. If we're not careful as leaders, we'll sow that seed of hopefully, and our team will buy that. Cut the crap. You cannot grow sales on hope. Hope is not a strategy.
Well, there's a drug for that.
What is that?
Hopium.
Hopium. Don't smoke the hopium.
Don't smoke the hopium. Yeah, you're spot on, Tim. I think there's somewhat of hope with the market. We've seen, and we've all been in this industry for a long time. It's a pendulum. You know, I worked with lenders a lot in the banking world. It's a pendulum. It swings back and forth. We know that. We can't control that. What we can control is what we show up and do every single day with our teams and how we help our teams. And for those of you who are individual sales folks or you're responsible for an area of your business, what do you control where you can kind of shut out the noise, so to speak? Because the noise is where we get distracted. Anyone else like me, you wake up in the morning and you have about 1,500 notifications on your phone, like 5,000 emails, we got social media, we have all this noise, all this distraction, and we can't get down to the root of like how do we move business forward and keep it simple and attainable.
I think it's also interesting, just real quick, you brought up social media, is we get called in a lot to coach on social media and marketing and all these things. That's great. I start with every team on my social media trainings or Andrews, and I say, I hate social media. And right away, half the crowd says, oh, good, like you too? I'm like, yeah, I have 4 kids. I don't have time. But what we do is we start with sales, culture, and leadership before we get into social media, because if you don't have a process and a system built for how you're going to use a tool, then the tool is just going to run away on you. Same with AI, same with anything. And so we're going to dig into the sales leadership, the attitude. And again, Andrew, the attitude of leadership isn't the only thing. It's everything.
It's everything.
It is the only thing. Because the heart of, you could be a leader and you could say the right things, but the attitude, that's what your team feels. The attitude, how you show up. The attitude, how you prioritize them. And so we're going to dig in. I'm excited. Hopefully I set the stage enough. But let's jump into. I think that our first slide here is mindset matters.
Mindset matters.
So let's jump into mindset, man.
We talked about the noise, and we talked about everything out there. And if you believe it or not, what we consume, what we put into our brains, what we put into our hearts, it's absolutely going to come out of our mouth. It's going to come out in our actions. It's going to come out in the things that we do every day. Believe it or not, that's a fact of life, right? And it manifests itself in so many ways. And I go back to, I had a boss in previous years, and he was a market director and ran a big team. But he had a propensity that you didn't know what version of him you were going to get every day. We'd jump on a call. And this was back in the, I won't name the bank, but about 7 years ago, they got fined for unethical sales practices. And thankfully, I left that company. And it's a big red Stagecoach, you all know it. But they had daily sales calls, right? So there's daily calls, and if the numbers, there was something they called, like in the DOS system, anyone on Resware, enter, tab, like all that. So they would refresh, and you could see the amount of sales coming in minute by minute from each branch, right? And if the day wasn't trending in the right direction, every branch manager, you all need to hop on a call. And depending how this guy's day was going, right, it was a different flavor. And I saw so many good people, good branch managers, good bankers, who really worked hard, leave and churn and never gain traction, because the mindset of leadership and the mindset that was created on the team is everything's reactionary. We have no foresight, no vision. It's what's happening today, and that's all that matters. And no one knows what to expect. So from a leadership perspective, I think that's a question we all have to ask ourselves. Does your team get the most consistent version of you that you can deliver every day when you show up? And for those that we work with, your colleagues, are we the most consistent version of ourselves? And that's something we should all strive to be. We all have things that happen with family. We have the dog sick, something goes wrong in the morning, the tire's flat, we get in a car accident, like this all happens. And we want to be human, but if we're in a leadership role, we have to know that if we let those things impact our mindset, we let a headline impact our mindset, we let something going on in the legal realms of our industry really get us down, that comes out to our teams, that comes out to our clients, that comes out to everything, it impacts everything we do, and we're really riding a roller coaster of emotions. So, Tim, you're the mindset guy, though. That's my perspective on it,
actually,
my story.
I'm not. Earl is, and I throw this quote up on the screen simply for the fact that whatever we invest into our subconscious over and over and over and over will absolutely come out in our words, in our actions, and it will become our reality. That's why we did a podcast on words matter. What we say, how we say it, the approach we make, and even, listen, we're going to say a word here and there that's the wrong word. I've retracted I to change it to we multiple times. I'll start with I, and I'll be, wait a minute, we, and I'll say that in front of my team so that they understand that I'm paying attention and I'm aware to my words. Because again, by not retracting, by just rolling, my mind is just cementing a habit. So, but back to your headline analogy. Headlines, we don't get to choose. Now, we kind of can, right? Because at the end of the day, we can go in, by the way, and set some notifications or delete some things. I mean, so many people don't know this, right? You can go to Google and say, I don't want to see more of this, right? I do want to see more of this. So you can kind of set some of that stuff up. But even then, I mean, clickbait's out there. Negative news sales. And so if you think about it, what am I intentionally programming my mind? From the moment I wake up, the alarm clock, especially as leaders, but as salespeople in the room, the next 12 months, we are going to have to insulate our mindset like never before. My wife and I purchased the house next door for her mom. We moved her up. She works part-time for me. And then we said we would love to have a built-in babysitter next door. So we invested in the house and we gutted it. It was an old, beautiful exterior, but kind of torn up inside from the 1930s. We gutted the whole thing down and it was amazing, the structure. I mean, they had the original 2x4s. Like guys, gals, you DIYers, like the original true 2x4s. I mean, it's solid. But I brought in the codes guy and I said, what's the best way to insulate this house? And he said, you need to go with the spray-in. It's like the new thing, it's cellulite, it's like all this stuff, it's amazing. You will cut your electric bill in half from the regular R45 or whatever it was. And so I said, okay, perfect. Now, I went out and quoted it, right? And anybody like me, you're looking at that price tag, right? And so I went out and quoted it, it's double, right? It's double. Now, in the long term, it'll pan out and pay off, but it was double. So my wife and I sat down. It was like one of those Joanna Gaines moments where they had to call the client, and say, hey, we're about 10,000 over. So I was like, baby, we're going to do this. And the reason we're going to do this is, A, I want mom not to have any problems like as she ages. I said the second thing is that the long-term investment's amazing and the house will be tight for forever. And so we sprayed it in. Let me tell you, that electric bill it's a shame. It's so low. It's amazing. But that house is so tight. And what I realized was, and I was doing this during the winter, the gut. So my boys and I are over there late at night. We're gutting walls and all that. And it's cold. I mean, it's during the winter. It's cold. We've gutted everything. It's just brick and the wind blowing through the brick. As soon as that insulation went in, we were over there the next night and we're picking up, cleaning up, getting ready for the drywall guys. And I was taking my sweatshirt off. I mean, it's like 62 in the house because it's cold outside, but inside the house, it was warm. I was hot. It was insulated. And I sat there and thought, that is the perfect analogy for our mindset, especially in a down market. It can be frigid cold outside, but whatever I invest up here, and if I'm insulated and I turn off some of the headlines and I decide I'm going to go create my own, I'm going to get up intentionally and start with something, whether it's a book I'm reading through or a podcast I'm going to listen to because I get jacked off of this person, whatever we show up. But the thing is, some of us will do that one day, 2 days, maybe a week, and then it goes away. So then we're back to the flavor Andrew's talking about. So if we want to make a concerted effort today, it's what am I going to plug into for the long term and make that commitment, small commitment, 2-3 pages, but get the mindset right.
And I kind of want to jump in on that because there's nothing wrong with reading headlines. There's nothing wrong with reading the news and being up to speed on what's going on.
Good point.
You should.
You got to go outside.
But you have to make a choice. You have to make a physical choice of I'm reading this for educational purposes. It's not going to necessarily dictate. And I go back to like, what are your core operating beliefs? Like, what do you wake up every day knowing you need to go do in your business? And are you going to execute regardless? And that's the insulation piece, right?
Regardless, yeah.
So making a concerted effort of what will I consume, and I want to be educated. I want to be able to speak to what's going on in the market. I need to know what's going on in the industry. However, I can control what I can control, and that's what I'm going to focus on with my team every single day.
Yeah, growing up.
Yeah.
What was Dad's favorite slogan in the winter? We lived in Germany in a house from the 1400s. I mean, these walls were massively thick, so it kind of self-heated and self-insulated. But man, we go out, we had a farm. You go out to go feed the sheep or gather eggs from the chickens, and you'd run out, you put your boots on, and that door, it was an old house, so the door jambs weren't just right. That door would hit and bounce back open, right? You thought it slammed it, didn't it? It bounced back open. What was Dad's favorite line? Close the front door. What are we trying to do? Heat the outside, live in a barn, right? It was all that, right? Remember that? And we got in trouble. I mean, Dad took us once and showed us. I mean, we had 14 siblings in the same house. Dad went and showed us. He pulled open the electric panel, and the way it worked in Germany, this old electric panel, was this little red meter. And some days it was just, it was just spinning, right? Yeah. And if you have 14 kids, you have lights on. He was always, turn the lights off, shut the door. But anyway, so to continue the analogy, we have to go outside sometimes. We got to go to the grocery store. We got to go outside. It's going to be cold, but you're coming back in the house. Close the door. Close the door. Yep. So mindset matters.
Mindset
which
matters.
kind of takes us into
It does.
Filtering
it really
matters.
does take us right into filtering. So we're talking about filtering. What is filtering? Well, it's not a Brita pitcher, right? It kind of is for your mind. We need a charcoal filter for our mind sometimes. But in leadership and
Sometimes
this,
mine's more like a spaghetti
yeah, I think
strainer.
this really does apply to, all right, exactly. It applies to our client relationships. It can also apply to, really where we're coming from is leadership, sales leadership. There's a old adage. I used to work with a lot of folks, and they were really rude. And we've all probably worked with rude people at some point in our career. And sometimes we pass off the rudeness, or we pass off whatever they're doing, and their excuse is, oh, I'm just very direct. Have we all worked with someone who, like, they were kind of a little over the top, and their excuse was, I'm just a direct person? Well, being direct or being rude, that's more of a lack of self-control if you're not really thinking through how you're impacting whoever else you're working with. So this filtering, what we're going to talk about today is we have our mindset, we know what we need to focus on, but then when the contracts aren't coming into our title agency, what are we doing? Have we identified those steps with our team that we know if we go control those steps, regardless of how long it takes, because some of these things take time. You're not going to recoup your investment for the installation for another 5 years or so.
Right.
However, you know that you eventually will recoup it. Yep. And I do know there are big moves we need to make. There might be acquisition opportunities. There might be a recruitment play you need to make to help your business survive right now. I'm not talking about that.
Software or something like that.
What I'm talking about is, do you beat your team up because the numbers came out for the quarter, you got them from the accountant, and you're reading through them, or you are looking at your file counts, and they're trending down month over month and week over week. And so our entire tone, our entire approach with our team changes all of a sudden, goes back to mindset. They don't know what to expect. And instead of going out and being able to do what they do best to grow business, or even if it's us and we're running our own business, are we changing the tone on ourselves? Yeah. Right? And so that's what filtering is. Right. When we're running a team, when we have a team under us, that Simon Sinek says it best, a leader's not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in our charge. And our people's mindset and their well-being and their emotions matter too. Yeah. So when things aren't going well, what are those things? And let's make it very practical here. Yeah. So it's like, hey, sales team, we know if we all reach out to 5 new prospective clients a day consistently, and we do that consistently, and that's what we all hold each other accountable to, we'll have the level of conversations, we'll work on the level of conversations, and we'll move conversations forward and eventually get a goal.
But see, that conversation there, that's already happened. Right? That's already happened.
Right.
And if it hasn't already happened, that's time out right there. Like, no wonder we're not filtering. We don't have a filter. Like, what is your filter? What is your mission, vision statement? What are your core values?
Right.
What are you operating? What are you preaching over as a CEO, as a sales leader, as a branch manager, an attorney? Are you so focused on this is what we said, who we said we are, and this is what we committed to go doing? It all starts with who. Somebody said too often in life, personally and as organizations, we get the doing before the being. Yeah. You have to be before you will effectively do. So our core value, our mission statement, and what we're built, why we even exist, that has to be front and center, especially in a down market. That's the filter. But based on this, who we are, what are we going to go do? And if we've done this homework, we've put the plan in place, then it's just a quick putting your compass back on north, because we're going to get off. Our compass will get off. But it's putting that compass back on north to, hey, we said this was going to drive the needle, right? Yes. Where are we at on that?
Right.
That's it. See, instead of this because what happens often, right? We're on these calls, and it's interesting. And nothing against anybody, because I've diatribed too. But oftentimes a leader will gather everybody up because they want a quick fix. So it's get everybody on a Teams call or a Zoom call, and I'm gonna go on 20-minute diatribe. Okay? Now, effective?
Also known as a come to Jesus meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I was trying to keep politics and religion out of this, but there you go. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm stepping in the doo-doo.
I'm just kidding. I don't, by the way. Who cares? That's like everybody read Rainmaker. It's like antiquated. I love the book, actually, but it's antiquated. Don't drink coffee? Come on. I'm drinking coffee. You might spill it on your shirt. I will spill it on my shirt. I'm a freaking millennial, and I'm proud of it. And I'll show up with coffee on my shirt, and I'll tell you why I have coffee on my shirt, and we're going to be best friends and get to know each other and do business. Like, stop all that stuff anyway.
I love it.
I'm going to talk about religion. I'm going to talk about politics. No, anyway. So, side note, but it's all about your attitude. It's all about your attitude. So, but to get back to the filter. So you have this filter, and you're getting on this team. That's where you have to have that awareness. Yeah. What is the message? What am I going to say? I have everybody together. Here's what often happens, to bring this very practical. A leader thinks, and this is called negativity bias, okay? Can anybody see, here, do you have a pen on you real quick?
I don't.
I'm going to just do a quick illustration and just see if anyone can make out what I wrote here on my, there we go. Can anybody see what, hang on, make it a little bit bigger since we're in the background. Can anybody see on my hand, what do you see?
A dot.
What color? Can anybody make out the color? Black. Somebody said a mole. Okay, that's good. All right. Black, blue. Somebody said blue? You saw? Okay. Okay. Oh, that right there? Okay, so I was actually talking about my hand, right? Like, can you see my hand? Like wrinkles, lines, the ring. But you know what happens? Whatever's out of place becomes the main thing. It's called negativity bias. Okay? It just is.
Right.
When you see something out of place, if I was walking right now across the front of the room with this clicker, no one would say a thing. But if I walked on an airplane and you just saw that flash, immediately your brain would go to gun, because our brains are conditioned for survival. And so negativity bias, it's not our fault, it is our problem.
Right.
As a leader, the negativity bias is this. We see 3 underperformers, and instead of doing the hard work of having a one-on-one with those 3 underperformers and giving them honest feedback, thanking them where we can, but giving them honest feedback and saying, we got to get this together, we get everybody together and we diatribe for 20 minutes, kind of in generalities. This happens all the time. And every top performer on the team is feeling like, well, what the, you haven't paid attention to my work?
Yeah.
Like, and what you're doing is you're demoralizing the team because we're unwilling to zoom in one-on-one and have difficult conversations. So in filtering, when it's a group setting, that needs to be very vision casting, very high level. And even be careful to call out the, man, Jamie's crushing it again. And next week, Jamie's crushing it again.
Yeah.
Well, what if your underperformer took one small step?
Right.
One small step in the right direction, and then I'll never be Jamie. So you need to be careful when it's a team setting on what we're doing, because demoralization happens there.
Well, to your point, what you're saying, starting there's a lot of team meetings, and this is just a very practical step for you and your company. If you're a member of the team, take this back to your leader. But a lot of our meetings that I've seen in this industry, we don't necessarily even have a structure to them. So that lends itself to diatribing. We just get in, we start talking about whatever, and normally we gravitate towards the lack of numbers right now, and it leads to, here's what we need to be doing better. And back when I was in sales, and if I had $1 for every time I heard a leader tell their team back when I was doing it, like, they don't care what you did. People listen to you with a couple different lenses on your team. They either listen to you knowing that you're in power, or they listen to you with a self-preservation, like my self-esteem needs to be preserved here. So as a leader, we have to understand that's how we're being perceived by the people listening to us. So when we come in, well, I never took vacation, and I did it this way, and I did it that way, and we should all be able to do that. Just pick up the phone and call. Yeah. All they're hearing is, yeah, no. I'm serious. That's all they're hearing. We have to take it a step further. So to your point, I'm glad you brought up recognition, because I don't think enough meetings start with recognition. Yeah. If your team meetings don't start with some form of recognition for your team, and you understanding, again, it all goes back to have you identified those, the 4 business principles that I think we all should look at every time we have a meeting are, business growth, our controls, our compliance, our client experience, and our team member experience. Like, if you don't know where to start with your business, start with those 4. Business growth, controls, operational excellence, wire fraud, all that good stuff, team member experience, client experience, right? Those are 4 good pillars to focus on. Yeah. So if every meeting you're talking about those things categorically with the steps that you're taking, but recognize different team members for the things they're doing. Like, start your meetings with recognition and recognize the person who took the step from not making any calls, and they finally made a call and had a little bit of a win because you sat alongside and you guided them through that level of conversation. Yeah. And when you start doing it and investing the time with your team in that way, and it's not just always a come to Jesus meeting, I mean, you start really seeing the results. And that gets back to filtering. Yeah. We're not just taking the raw data and spewing it out. Like, we grew up in Germany, the neighbor next door had a cow farm, and this is kind of gross, but they would pump out the manure every week and go out on the field and spray it. And the town stunk for a week.
Whole town.
So
40 houses, a small village.
Yeah,
whole
really
town.
bad. We've all probably been on a team somewhere where we felt like that was happening at certain times. Yeah. And we all got sprayed, and it just stunk for a week, right? Yeah. So we have to really, think about that.
Did you know that John Deere, by the way, they put a lifetime guarantee on all their equipment. Did you know that? On all their equipment they produce, lifetime. Did you know that they don't stand behind one of them? The manure spreader. They don't stand behind that one.
Yeah. So filtering, essentially, that's what it comes down to. Don't just take the raw data. The raw data as a leader should come into our brains. We should think about it and then go apply it based on what our core operating beliefs and our core values are. And I asked a leader recently, we have a great culture. What is your culture? There's a whole lot of silence. Can you verbalize what your culture is?
Yeah.
And if not, Tim, you said it earlier, you said time out. If you don't have a very clear delineated process right now for your sales team, or for you, if you're in the room and you're the owner operator and you're responsible for growing sales, because you are soup to nuts and you're doing everything in your agency, are you giving yourself the grace and the time to have weekly opportunities to go grow your business? And being, I won't say nice to yourself. I think we all are very nice to ourselves. But don't beat yourself up if you're not giving yourself the time to go do what you need to do. Right? So take the time and identify, what does that look like? If I can just reach out to 3 people this week, that's a win for me. If that's you, great. Give yourself that win. Recognize yourself for that. And then that can scale the bigger the team gets.
Back to exactly, and we are our own worst critics. We are pretty hard on ourselves. The problem is this: we're not necessarily hard on ourselves connecting the dots to results. We're hard on ourselves on all the emotional drama we feel.
Yeah, true.
That's the key. Like, because if we were really hard on ourselves, it's like we're not doing the work that matters often. Here's the thing. A lot of us think we got to go do some massive concerted effort. We need a revolution, or we need to go do something massive. No. We need to figure out what's one little small step, to the owner-operator you're talking about. What's one thing in like sales proactivity you could do once a day that would drive something towards your bottom line, or open up an opportunity that would drive something to your bottom line? What is that? And then go do that. Sometimes we think we have to have this massive thing so it never finds its way on our calendar. But if we found out what's the one thing and we did it consistently every day for a short amount of time, the muscle memory would be there, the consistency would be there, and then we'd stop. We wouldn't be so hard on ourselves because we showed up to our time block and did it. But back to filtering, and I like that you said this. We look at a report, and that's where a lot of times we get the happy years. We see the 3 or 4 people climbing really high, and then we don't even pay attention down here. Like the killers up here, let's go award them, let's celebrate them, let's go some one-on-ones with them and say, great job, pick up the phone and call them. But really where it's at is who moved from 1 to 3? Because oftentimes that's the missed opportunity in your team growth and development. Who moved from 1 to 3? Who moved from 3 to 7? Who moved from 7 to 8? Who's moving up down here? Because that's actually where the hardest growth happens. These people have figured out how to scale, how to repeat. These people are just learning. So that's where, when you're talking about recognition, if you distill down the KPIs that actually matter, which we'll get into doing the work here in just a second, but if you distill down, these KPIs will absolutely drive this top number, and then you start recognizing, don't recognize revenue.
And just for the acronym's sake, KPI, I think we all know, but key performance indicator.
Yes.
So what's your key performance indicator?
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you figure out that, go in the recognition piece of the call, recognize the KPI. If it's a broker's open, if it's phone calls, this number of, if it's face-to-faces with a real estate agent, or if it's maybe somebody getting on video for the first time, if you all as a team decided these things will absolutely create opportunities which will drive revenue, well then stop celebrating the revenue number because that's lagging, and start recognizing and celebrating the leading indicator, which is the KPI that's going to drive the lagging.
Right.
So that's just a shift. It's a mindset shift a lot of times for us because, again, we are production-based. We stay in business based on the number of orders coming in the door.
Right.
So that's important to us. But again, the power of filtering is the word selection, what our team can hear, what they can digest, how they're going to digest it, and also just be aware as well. I mean, sometimes your team member gets hit 1, 2, 3. Something happens personally, something happens, their book of business is down. That's, again, why the one-on-one is so important, because now you can tailor and custom make that accountability session. And really, that's where we start with leaders, by the way. The first question I ask a leader is, tell me about your one-on-one game. And you know how many times I'll just hear crickets? Because it's always that team call. The team call is important.
I think it's easier to deliver a negative message in a group, which is why a lot of us do it.
It's easier.
So we'll talk about, in generalities, we'll talk about what's not going well, what we need to do better. We might be specific, but that's where you then have some of your team who's crushing it, they're confused because they thought they were crushing it. And then the ones who aren't doing well are kind of feeling like they're getting called out, so they're annoyed. And then you blend all that together and it just stinks for a week. So
it does. And as a team, if you come up with the key performance indicators, what is going to drive revenue? These things. Then in your one-on-ones, you're sitting down with that person to say, okay, out of these things, what can they do? Because everyone's not going to go be a killer at video, right? Everyone's not going to maybe be the killer at the in-person. Maybe somebody's a better phone caller than they are the in-person business discussion. Like, you need to kind of look at your team and play to their strengths. Anybody ever watch Moneyball? Like, it's a great movie if you watch it from a sales leadership perspective. Go find those players that nobody ever saw potential in and start developing what they're good at. And if you start doing that, and as a sales leader, and here's the other thing, branch managing attorneys, some of your post-closing department, in this 12 months, we need to be looking to them a little bit more than we have, and not in a every job's a sales job kind of a way, although that's a great message. You say that to a branch managing attorney, they're like, no, I got this ESQ on the wall I worked hard for. I'm not a freaking salesperson. So again, filtering that message to go sit down and say, hey man, in the next 12 months, or hey, man is kind of just, hey, in the next 12 months, we're looking to pull out all the stops, pull on all the resources, and I would just like to see, what do you think we could do better? See, and this is the open-ended question. This is the power. If you want buy-in, if you want team to adopt a more sales-centric approach, what do you think we as a sales team, what do you think our marketing people, what could we be doing better? And if you listen, they will throw something out that you can, as a leader, circle back to and say, let me ask you something. I'm wondering, you think you can maybe help if we were to bring you into a room and maybe our salesperson, you could help, maybe they interview you or something, you can help with that, and then maybe push that out to your database as content we create for you with it. We're doing this with branch managing attorneys for our agents. We're doing this. We're getting buy-in because what we're doing is we're starting with open-ended questions. What could we do better as a sales team? What could we do better to drive business in the door? What do you need in this local marketplace? And then the other thing is this. We're in different localities. Different localities need different things. I mean, we were up in Frederick, I think it was at Frederick? No, Westminster. And we were talking about an AI class we did, and everyone just looked like they were a calf looking at a Newgate. I was like, So, I mean, there's different localities for different things. So same thing with your team, there's going to be different things. But the one-on-one is where the power is at. It's my first question with the leader.
I'm really glad you brought that up. I do want to go into the one-size-fits-all thing. You kind of alluded to it there. But one size does not fit all. We have to know the strengths on our team. How many in here ever played sports? How many of you did not play sports? All right, couple. If you had a culture where it's like, hey, everyone in here needs to play sports. And so, for me, I could never do like a good three-point shot. But you can't teach height, so I was good near the rim, right? And so in high school, they were like, hey, just go up there.
You really can't
catch
teach
the ball.
height.
So
that was a rub. That was a dig. Did you feel that?
But my opportunity was I worked on my three-point shot. I needed to be able to manage it, because if I was wide open at the top of the key, I needed to take the shot, okay?
That's why they call you Big Hoop.
That's right. But in sales, I want to apply this to sales. Sometimes we're so focused on the dot, which is the opportunity for either one of our team members or somebody, and we're spending all our energy and our effort to improve that one area of opportunity instead of perfecting and helping hone what they're really, really good at. And I think if we take, and it goes back to strength finders. Have anyone ever do strength finders? When you know the strengths of your team, and if you haven't done it, do this exercise as a team. Yeah. There will always be things that Tim is way better at me than doing, and there are things that I'm way better than Tim at doing. Yeah, and when we play together, we play our strengths together, we can win more. Yeah. And so instead of trying to take a square peg and fit it in a round hole with some of our sales teams all the time, we're just like, jamming it in there, and it's not working, and then they end up leaving, and it wasn't a good fit. And like, if we would have just realized that they were really good at this, so how can I put, back to basketball, Andrew in more positions where he's catching the ball and laying up versus having the shot at the top that he misses most of the time. Yeah. So how can I structure my team to really leverage their strengths? And so the practical piece of that is go do strength finders with your team. Yeah. Understand and have those conversations, like what do you feel you really excel at? Yeah. And then put our energy, our time, our resource into enhancing what they're already good at, and not always coaching on the thing that they're probably just never going to graduate from.
It's important, and we've done a lot of disc profiles. Some people do Myers-Briggs, but if you're interested in that, listening to the podcast later, drop a comment here in the room, see us after. But let's talk about that. I'm a certified disc trainer, and I help teams find those strengths and really start capitalizing on those missed opportunities. And I just want to throw this quote up on the screen real quick if you want to snap it. I think this is powerful. Just understanding the power of our words, understanding there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of garbage, there's a lot of things that we can catch on. And sometimes we go to a big conference and we hear a leader get up and say something, and we go back and just kind of repeat. Right. And again, that's the way to filter and take to our team the powerful words that align to them, that align to our vision moving forward. So let's move into the last piece here, because we want to get to some Q&A, but absolutely execution. So Andrew is I call him the executioner, okay? So I've done a lot of visioning, I've done a lot of concepting with agents, and then Andrew comes in, and at the end of the day, the quote, the reason why we argue about Henry Ford or Aesop is it's his quote, and he swears Aesop wrote it. So, but when all is said and done, more gets said than done. So we leave every training we do with some level, he hates handouts. I used to have this big old binder of a sales playbook. He said, dude, if I ever see another sales playbook, I'm going to throw up. I'm like, don't knock my sales playbook. And by the way, if you guys think this is all easy and like, great, show like today, like thank him, because I mean, what you didn't see and Miguel got to see this morning was in the hotel, we were having a boxing match. We were like, no, we're not saying that. No, we're just saying that, right? No,
that's
I'm
what
kidding
they all
a little
here
bit.
to see.
I'm kidding. I know, right? Who wants the boxing match? Right? Yeah, he's like, whoa, big hoop. No. Anyway, so I would lose every day, so we don't do that. But anyway, what I'm saying though is behind the scenes, the discussion and the how are we going to do this? And he said, bro, you really need to stop taking somebody through a big old massive sales playbook that's going to go in a drawer somewhere. And it really resonated with me because how many of us have a big sales playbook? Now, I'm not saying you go off to a conference for 2 days and you take as many notes and you have this thing and go back. But here's the thing. Out of that big playbook, what are the 3 things that if my team executed on today would absolutely drive my business forward? That's actually the hard work. One of my mentors in life, after a big conference, we would go to a coffee shop for 2 hours and we'd go through we were Maxwell, I was getting my certification with John, and so we're down there, it's leadership, and so 2 hours we go sit down at coffee. I'm done. I'm tanked, I'm tapped. I've been mingling, co-working with John Maxwell. I got to get up on stage and do my 5-minute thing so I can get the certification, right? So I'm like, I'm spent. And then we're going to go 2 hours at the coffee shop and take all of this. That's where the hard work began. Because he said, I want you to take a highlighter and I want you to look through, and you got to be picky. It's like, I really think, wait, keep going. Be really picky. Distill it down. What are the 3 things you're going to go execute on? Yeah. That's the hard work. So Andrew, one of the things he's done with my sales coaching is saying, when we coach a team, we're going to distill down in every training 3 what we call go executes. And we're going to go work on those 3 things. And we're going to be accountable to each other on those 3 things. So when we talk about execution, this is the criminal. This is where it's all at. You could filter great, you could have a great mindset, and you could show up and everyone leaves the meeting feeling good, but not knowing where to go execute. So Andrew, this is kind of yours. I think you have a tattoo on your arm somewhere that says go X, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think I still need to get that one. But okay. So let's talk about getting things done, like actually moving the ball forward. And it goes back to, do we spend an hour sales meeting with our teams talking? And then how much time is spent actually going and doing what we talked about? Very powerful concept to think about. Can we take something that, like 10 minutes, distill down what we're going to say in an hour in 10 minutes and spend the rest of that time executing on whatever it is that we said we're going to talk about? Yeah. Is it phone calls? Is it going through our book of business and segmenting so we can really be more effective with our outreach? Is it building a solution that we're going to be offering to our clients as a value add? Like, what is that thing that you all are talking about that then we go and we got to schedule another time? And I learned this from, like, I didn't know him well, but he was my leader at Chase when I worked at Chase, Jamie Dimon, he's the CEO. He said, if you ever have to have a meeting after the meeting, you did something in the original meeting wrong. There shouldn't have to be a meeting after the meeting to do what you were going to talk about in the meeting. So we want to execute, right? And it came up on a sales coaching we were doing recently where we talked about, so you have the time block.
Right.
But then when the time block rolls around, do you actually do what you were supposed to do in the time block?
How many, and being on it, I'm going to speak from the heart here. How many like me have a time block? And, well, let me rephrase the question. Do you know the easiest person to cheat on?
Yourself.
Ourselves.
Your freaking self. Who like me has a time block? You said it was important. You absolutely are going to do this thing, and then it rolled around, and something came in the inbox and took your attention away, right? Yeah. And I think coming out of the pandemic, coming out of the refi boom, because it was so crazy, and we had to be reactionary during it. It was something our industry never saw. I think we still have some of those effects because as I coach teams, it's still this hypertension of getting up at 5 a.m., expecting a full inbox, and if it's not there, oh my, it's just take a breath. Let's go time block some important tasks and let's go be faithful to that time block. But yes, to your point, don't cheat on yourself.
Don't cheat on yourself.
Yeah.
What is the time block for, and are you going to do it? So when it comes down, and I'll tell you a quick story. So when I worked back at the Stagecoach Company, and again, I left for a reason, the sales metrics for the team. So this is how people would get paid, right? Like everyone wants to get paid. Here's how you're going to get paid. But it was like, well, you need in a quarter 100 checking accounts, but then you need to be at least at 80% with 80 savings accounts too. And then if you don't have at least 25 credit cards, you're disqualified. But then you need to have 15 home equities. You need to have 10 partner referrals to investment advisors. And then across the board, none of those metrics.
Wait, you lost me.
Right. And I could keep going. There was about 5 more. So when we're looking at our teams and how we measure that success, guys, simplify. Simplify, simplify,
baby.
simplify. In sales, simplify the activities. It's like the lowest common denominator, right, in math. Like, what's the thing that if we do consistently a lot will drive all of these things? So simplify our process. Don't make it so convoluted where there's a failure to launch. I think there's a good movie by that name. I think it's a chick flick. I don't know how I know that movie name. But failure, like we don't want our team to have failure to launch because we've put so much on our plate. We talked for an hour in a meeting and maybe it was all good stuff.
All right.
But then we never set up the time to go execute, right? Was it a Matthew McConaughey movie?
Yes.
Of course you know
Come
that.
on, man.
How do you know that? This guy doesn't know movies. I mean, come
no,
on. Anybody know Tim?
true
He doesn't
story.
know
We live in
movies.
Delaware, Virginia, and the ladies down at the post office, and after I say this, you all might say, no, they're wrong, or you might say, oh, yeah, I thought so. But they swear, they're like, man, you sound like Matthew McConaughey. Every time I go in there, they're like, I go in there, I say, hey, ladies, and they're like, oh, Matthew McConaughey. I'm like, trust me, I do not have the six-pack like Matthew. I wish I did, but anyway, but I know, failure to launch, man, absolutely.
Yeah, so taking the time, what does your meeting look like, and are you doing the things that you said? And if you find that the majority of the time we're not doing the things that we talked about in our meetings, we really need to rethink our meetings. We need to rethink how we're actually executing on what it is we said we're going to do. But give some practical things from a sales perspective.
Well, one thing
Tim,
we
if we're going
did-
to simplify, what are some practical things anyone can do to be successful in sales?
During the refi boom, when things were crazy, I was coaching in several large agency channels, and we had sales teams of 14, 15, 25, whatever. But here's the thing, if you have a sales team of 1 or 2, this can still work. Or if you're the owner operator and there's a marketing person and maybe somebody in your team now because it's slower can do this, it still works. So hear me out. I said, listen guys, winter's coming, refi boom will not last forever. How are you zooming in with your realtors right now, right? Remember that conversation? How are you zooming? Because winter's coming, you're gonna need them. So I'm like, yeah, you're right. I said, well, how are we making calls? So week to week, we went through this coaching and I would ask for, all right, how many calls? They weren't measuring. Somebody said, what gets measured gets done. They weren't measuring. So I said, I'm just tired of this. So I called the sales leader up and I said, all right, we're going to do something different. The next coaching call we get on, where I'm not talking, I'm not teaching, I'm not training, I'm not doing anything. We're all going to go on mute, we're going to be on screen, and we're going to make calls. We did it. Like I did it, and they were all freaked out. They looked in the, and he kind of bought in, and he's like, I don't know how this is going to work. Well, 3 of the people really picked up on it and ran with it, and then the others kind of got on board. But I was like, guys, I don't want to talk anymore. Like, I want to go execute with you. And again, this is kind of the influence Andrew was having on me at the time. So we just got on the call. Now, we are all accountable to each other. Bob Proctor says accountability is the glue, or accountability, right, is the glue that ties our commitment to the results. A lot of times we commit, and then the results aren't there. I have to ask you, fill in a big blank, where's the accountability? And as a leader, have you built the accountability in? Make accountability fun, by the way. You can. So we just had this like round table on Zoom. We all go on mute, and I said, no, and you can't just like be down here. You got to be putting the phone up. So everyone's having their phone up to the thing. And I mean, it's hard to fake this for 30 minutes. It really is. It's just hard to fake, right? So everyone's
some
putting
people
the phone.
were successful.
So and you can't be on your phone. You got to be on a laptop. And to this day, this is a very large style company. To this day, they're still doing the habit. It's a time block. And here's the other thing too. If you will invite somebody to your time block, what are the chances you think you'll show up to your time block for what you said you're going to show up to? Accountability is key. So if you want to go execute, the key word is accountability. And then I want to shift into the Q&A, but end with this: doing it regardless. Do not derail your sales team or your branch manager, attorneys, or your post-processing with whatever initiatives you said this will help us drive business. You're talking about the delighting the customer right now. We have opportunities to get Google reviews right now. We're teaching, and we have opportunities to Zoom back in with clients like never before, to generate some nurture clients, to generate some leads. We have opportunities. Like, we have information at our fingertips. We are very powerful as title companies. We don't give ourselves enough credit. We could really rethink our sales culture and change some things. But anyway, see us after. But here's the thing. We derail our team so often because we come in and we say, we didn't win last week. And so then it's again back to the not filtering, and we derail what we said was important. So I'm going to go to a quote that I think half the room is going to kill me for putting this up on the screen because of what what they did to your team yesterday. Or did my remote die?
Uh-oh.
Oh no, my remote died, guys. So you're not going to get to see it. Maybe that was Providence, just keeping me saved here. But Jalen Hurts said it this way. That's where the laugh was supposed to happen. Did I say Jalen right?
It's Jalen.
Jalen, I'm sorry. Jalen Hurts said it this way. This is Andrew's team. Fly, Eagles fly.
I'm a Packers
okay,
fan, but
all right.
Sure.
He said, we are doing the work regardless.
Win or not.
We are doing the work regardless. Just let that sink in for a minute. The winningest team, the Super Bowl champs, the going at it again, gonna dominate probably again. The guy's pressing. I mean, I'm not even an Eagles fan, but I'm a Jalen fan just from his story. You all seen his story? I mean, the guy's lifting 500 pounds. He didn't have this propensity. I mean, he was benched in college. I mean, he could have went off on a wrong mindset, but he's built to last. He's built to last. But you know what he's not out here saying, I'm this, I'm that. They said Wentz before, while Wentz led the team, he's in the locker room with his earbuds in, kind of doing his thing before going out, getting all pumped up. Jalen's in there with his team, getting his team pumped up. He's a team player. Jalen said, regardless, we're going to do the work. So take the lagging indicator revenue out. That's the regardless. That's the win or not. And then figure out what the work is. Because Jalen, I guarantee you, knows what he's going to bench today, what he's going to deadlift today. He knows what his team is doing.
Right.
Regardless, we're going to do the work. So why don't you wrap us up, put your golden microphone moment on, and cap us, but then we're going to go to Q&A.
Well,
you got 15 minutes.
I mean, I can't compete with that. But
yes, you can.
As Jalen said, do the work regardless. Don't overcomplicate the work. Keep your team focused on the work.
Yeah.
Keep yourself focused on the work. What are those 3 things you're going to do regardless? And then do them. And when the going gets tough and you feel like it's not working, doesn't mean you might not need to adapt. Like, for example, you're making the phone call.
Yeah.
You're setting a meeting, then you're having a meeting and nothing's happening. Okay, let's go look at how we're having that meeting.
Right.
We might need to coach through some of that. That's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
But we're still true to what we know our core principles are. And at the end of the day, when we're true to that, through a down market, our people appreciate it, our clients appreciate it, and the business will come with that. If you go win conversations right now, and I'll leave you all with this, in sales, if you're winning conversations, not contracts, if you're winning conversations right now, you will come out of this sluggish market, this high inflationary market, this low inventory market, stronger. Your team will be stronger, and you'll be positioned to have another boom town when rates get down enough to make all the loans we're doing right now refinance. So I'll leave us with that.
Sales conversation.
Open it up for questions. Thank you all for listening through.
Mindset matters, filtering matters, execution matters. So with that, what questions? What did you hear? Maybe an aha, maybe just throw out something, but go for it. And nobody, thank you. I actually asked a couple people not to come in the room so they want to heckle it. No, I'm just kidding. Nobody heckled.
Like in the mornings when we start our day, I think that's really where the negative happens, the start of. We're like reading Facebook or reading social media. I feel like what I took from you was we need to really filter our day from the start, from the personal side too. Because if we bring that to work, oh, this thing happened and that politician, this and that, and we just start getting into this mindset, like you're saying, what are we doing for podcasts? What are we doing for reading? What are we doing to better our brains? So thank you for the reminder.
Absolutely.
You're very welcome. And one little thing, turn notifications off. Just turn it. Time block your social media. Go to it.
Yeah, you guys do a really good job. Follow you on social media, and you guys do a really good job. So, and you're responding to people as well as putting out your own material. So, how do you go about your day to be successful for all the things you have going on? So we all get slapped in the face as soon as we walk in the office, right?
Yep.
So, what tricks do you all find help you about how you compartmentalize
You go for it first,
to be successful?
So to be successful together, like with our podcast or whatnot, it's accountability. So if I go try and do it by myself or he tries to do it by himself, it's not going to get done. So, but that's also harder. Like my time block for social media is already there. So I go do my content, I go post my article, and the other thing there is I focus on one. So LinkedIn's my game. Like LinkedIn is where I do my thing and I invite people to my LinkedIn party. Like I'm over on LinkedIn, connect with me there. And so I do that, and I use it in my sales process. I measure how I connect online on a conversation and a comment to a direct message to a coffee with Mike. Like, I take it from social to direct, right, to face-to-face. So for me, it's in my sales process, but it's time blocked. When you're doing something, and this is as a team, if you're getting branch managing attorneys or a team onto leveraging, building content, putting something out there, it's harder work because you have to get everybody on the same page. And I'll turn that over to you because, I mean, we've had to...
I want to be very proud. Tim didn't share some, so Facebook, for example. Tim gets on Facebook, and that's his birthday individual messages, right? So, like, Facebook is great for that. If anyone you're connected with, like, get on there, spend 20 minutes, happy birthday messages, or any life events, right? So you're very structured in your time with that, and I've adopted some of that. For the content, Mike, when we're out and about, we do a lot of content. I wish I could do so much more. I mean, we have a lot of podcasts that could be broken up. I think it comes down to knowing, okay, my goal, and I've talked to Roberta, who I work with now, about F&F social media. It's like, we're going to just do 2 videos a week on social. So give yourself that goal and block the time. And then, you know, I'm with Erica, we're with an agent, or not Erica, I'm sorry, Kelly the other day. We're with an agent doing something. We had 10 minutes afterwards, we jumped on and we shot a video with Kelly just in the moment. So if you have those opportunities in the moment, it doesn't always for social have to be scheduled, like set up like this, produced. Like the podcast we do, yes. But if you're capturing those moments and you're finding those gaps, but you know your goal is, hey, I need to get 2 videos out this week, that's helped us keep it structured. Because we're, you know, some of you are in an office every day. I'm in 3 states every day, right? So we're rolling around, we're on the road. So we do have to fit it in. And then when it comes to spending time on the sales activities, for us, that's a huge challenge, just like it is for you. Yep. We're soup to nuts on a lot of things too, from content to coaching teams to, you know, helping agents make content and do reviews and like whatever it is we're working on. So for our sales activity, we have to hold ourselves accountable, and we tend to in the mornings put on a co-working where we get on together to do our sales activities, and that's where we run through who are those folks we're talking to, have we set the next step in the conversation, where are we going, and that just comes down to a daily consistency. Yeah. So I hope that kind of answers the question. But with content specifically, and you, Mike, you do this well. I've seen you at doing your ice cream reviews and stuff. Do the stuff that's in the moment, because that's easy. And then when you get that moment in your day where I have 30 minutes gap here, I'm going to edit that video and get it posted. And that's kind of how we do it. Yeah. Couple questions. We'll start in the front. Yeah.
Okay, so my question is the accountability piece of it. Oh, thank you. So my office, we're a small title company. There's actually just 2 of us.
Okay.
So I'm managing marketing, doing settlements, helping pre and post. I'm doing everything. So when I do block those things out to do the things I know that are important to keep growing the business, we also sit inside the real estate office.
Okay.
So one of the things I've tried to do is make myself available to the agents, so I'm there to help them answer their questions. I've actually got people that have started sending me business that swore they would only go to this one company. They've been there for 20 years. I've earned their business, but when they walk down the hall and walk in my office, I might be in the middle of 5 things, but I feel like I need to stop, engage with them, let them know I'm there, but it does put my whole schedule out of line. Mm-hmm. That's what I struggle with the most, is how do I set that boundary in that environment?
Yeah.
Thank you. And I
have some thoughts.
That's a great question. I will say boundaries are critical to anything. And what I found is a lot of times when I'm cheating on myself, it's because I was not clear with my boundary. I was clear with my boundary to myself, but I didn't tell my wife about it. I didn't get childcare arranged for it or whatever, or with my team. So that real estate partner is your partner in business, right? So having a difficult, and sometimes why I didn't tell my wife is I didn't think she'd like my time block. So I just was like, I'll just coast with my time block one time because it's a difficult conversation. With the client, it's like, hey, I want to stay super effective. What I've done is I've opened up office hours. Like, I want to sit down with you. And by the way, 5 minutes, I would love saying hi and all that, but 30 minutes, like, every other week or something with you, we could be more focused on driving your business forward. I want to spend that time. So being proactive with it, but having somewhat of a difficult, and here's the thing, 90% of humans are people pleasers. We are. We don't want to make anybody upset. So it's hard to go have that conversation, but you'll be shocked how many people will be like, oh my gosh, I would love that. Or, oh, thank you so much for telling me. And you'll actually be more endeared to them because, and here's the thing, don't be afraid of being a little scarce. Scarcity creates attraction. Okay, I've had to learn this as a leader.
So those are kind of my thoughts. There's nothing wrong with the pop-in. You want that. You want it's the water cooler moment, right? Yeah. The problem is in most of our days, we spend way too much time at the water cooler.
Right.
And we don't know how to get out of those water cooler conversations that we want to get out of. And so you really have to think about how do you gracefully bow out. You take the 3 minutes, the 4 minutes. Did you see that? Oh yeah, I saw that. It's crazy. And then listen, I'm working on something right now. Let's circle back. Are you around later today? Right. And most times they're never going to come back.
Right.
But you find a really graceful way. Right. Hey, come back later today. I was in the middle. I got to get something done for a client, but I want to continue this conversation with you. Or can we get some time on the calendar?
Yeah.
So that's my graceful way of always saying no. And to Tim's point, like, we can't be afraid of saying no, but if we're not just like, hey, talk to the hand, I'm busy, right? We're not doing that. You're not going to hurt the relationship. And to Tim's point, they'll understand that what you're working on is important too, if you articulate it with a smile and you're friendly and down to earth.
You can get creative with a lot of that. And sometimes, like for me, years ago, I had a coworker, they just loved to talk and talk. And I was in purchasing, and they had to come in and place like, hey, I need this and need that. So I opened up my office hour right before lunch because I knew they would not cheat on themselves for lunch. They wanted their lunch break. So I was like, 10 minutes before lunch, you can come turn your order in. Then they would keep small chat with me to a minimum. And then I was able to maximize my day. So again, you can kind of get proactive with some creativity there.
And in the realtor office too, like something you can look at is when do they normally come in? Most realtors trickle in. So make your high impact activities of the sales stuff you want to do in the morning. You tackle that first thing. Whatever it is that's highest and best use of your time, get it done when there's less people around to do that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
But what I struggle with the most, it's not just that they want to come in and chit chat. It's that they've come back from a listing, or or they've come from an appointment. Sure. And can you look this up for me? Can you check the land records? Can you do this? Yeah. They say there's this. Can you? So then they want me to like stop what I'm doing, do all this research, which is time consuming, and then So if I have a settlement, I'm really good at like, listen, I have to be, in Clarksburg for a settlement in 30 minutes, so I'll have to work on this for you when I get back. But if I'm not leaving somewhere, I tend to put the rest of the work aside to help them in that very moment. Sure. And I know that's my shortcoming.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
You might want a physical reminder, something on your door that says, hey, if the pink circle is on my door, that means I'm busy. And when I take it off, you're welcome to come and see me. That way, it's not a do not disturb, but it's sort of a physical reminder. I learned this from someone who said the neighbor kid kept coming over all the time and they just needed some boundaries. and what they did is they put something physical on their porch that said, if this is out here, that means please don't come knocking on the door.
Right. In important matters. I know there was another question too, but I want to answer that real quick too. It matters, but there's a way to ask back. I can absolutely help you with that. Do me a favor. I'm in the middle of something right now for one of your colleagues. Can you send me an email? And even if you're not, I'm working on something right now. Can you send me an email with the details? And then is it okay if I get that answer to you by 4 o'clock today? Okay. So get permission for a time when you know you're going to have it. And that's where you can give yourself, some folks that are in those environments give themselves that hour between 3 and 4 o'clock, and that's when they're going to go in their inbox and get those random things that came up. Now, if it's a fire, it's urgent, you have to drop what you're doing. But you can absolutely cut out 60% of the stuff that's urgent and just put a nice question like, hey, email it to me, I'll get to it. We'll be okay by 4 because I'm in the middle of something as well right now. So just having that open conversation.
It's great. Couple other questions. I saw a hand. Yeah.
In your last speech, you mentioned that whether you win or lose, the work is getting done anyway, right? And indeed, when you do work, you want it to be as impactful as possible. Yeah. So what can you do to ensure that the ratio of win to losses are high?
It's great. And you want to take this one, or
sure.
You want me to jump in?
Sure. So most of the time, I'm going to be very practical. If I'm going into a time block for sales, my time block on my calendar, I already have in there who I'm going after and what my next step is, because my past self took care of my future self. So I know this is the last conversation or email or phone call or voicemail I've left, and I don't have to spend the time going back and trying to figure out. So sales is ultimately a consistency and a numbers game. Add value? Yes. So to win more, and I kind of mentioned this very briefly, but if I'm getting 10 meetings out of every 30 calls I make, that's good. But then I'm getting to the meetings and I'm not closing any deals, I have to go back and look at, okay, what is happening in the meeting that's not allowing me to get there? If I'm making 30 calls and I'm only setting 2 meetings, I have to go back and look at what am I saying on the call that's not allowing me to get to the meeting. So to turn more of the losses into wins, you have to look at what's happening in those meetings. And what Tim and I talk about in sales a lot is so much of the sales conversation is focused on not, it shouldn't be, but this is how it normally is, us talking about how great we are. We all are good at what we do, but we lead into that and we kind of, Tim has the phrase, we go in the lobby, we talk to the gatekeeper, and we dump our candy on the floor without getting to the actual decision maker. because we haven't crafted a sales narrative that matters to them. Like, why do they need to talk to us? So it's a big topic you asked, but the short answer is look at those steps where you might have gaps in the sales flow. From not knowing them, from building awareness to closing a deal. Where do you tend to fall off? Focus on building your skill there.
Yeah.
But with your approach in sales, flip it from being focused on us and how great we are, and flip it to problems, issues, and things they're experiencing, and how do I solve that for them? You'll win more conversations that way.
Yeah, and because when you do the evaluation, we're looking at sales scripts, and a lot of times we're seeing that. It's just all, and right now, by the way, if you think your title company is the greatest, every title company out there thinks they're the greatest, and they're all saying that. So look at your sales scripts. How much of it is that actually engaging? Are you asking open-ended questions? Are you trying to generate a conversation more than trying to, in the first sentence, tell them how great you are? So the evaluate, I would say one word answer, evaluate. Go in and ruthlessly relevant to your client. Does this matter to them? Does it pass the so what test? Right. Evaluate every step, and then if you just make small tweaks, I think you'll see that the numbers start improving. Because you want that hour time block to be the most effective.
Right.
So, and then take care of your future self.
Take care of your future self.
With your present self.
What did I do today, and what's
up.
the next thing I need to do, and put that in your notes wherever you go.
That's the
so you don't have to go back and think, where was I at? What did I need to do next? Like, tell yourself what you need to do next.
That's the quote of the day.
You think so?
Yeah. I know.
I always do that.
He does that to
That's
me
a
in the
joke.
car all the time. Bam! Ow!
He needs to gain some weight. You know, he's too thin.
There were a couple more. I know we're right up. We're standing between you and food, but there was one more hand I think up here and maybe back here. Anybody else?
I have a question. So the playing to somebody's strengths, right? That really resonated with me. How do you do that? How do you do that for your team?
That's a great question. So I start with what are their strengths?
Right.
Do we have some common assessment that we can both review and agree on? And I review assessments with people and say, what do you think? I want them to say, yeah, wow, that's so me, or I didn't really agree with this one. Because, I mean, those assessments can kind of get a little torqued sometime, too. So I want that common ground of they know their strengths or they've pointed out, or what do you think? And so assessment is a great way to open that door of, as a leader, not going in and saying, so this is how you're strong and this is how you're weak. No, not at all. Look, what do you think? And then listen to them. And then, hey, where would you like to, what roles could you see yourself playing, or where do you think you could like grow into or evolve? Again, open-ended questions and see what they give you back. And I think you're gonna find in that right there, you will start finding some opportunities. Real quick case in point, we did a survey with a large title company recently, and one of the salespeople in the job form, we said, what's one thing over the next 7 weeks of intensive coaching you wanna actually improve? And she said, have the confidence, get up in front of a room of realtors and speak. She told me what she wanted to go grow in. So I think as leaders, we need to be asking more of that, because now I can go intentionally work with her.
Yeah, so find out the strengths, and great question. So I'll give you a practical example. Someone on the team might crush it on the phones. They know how to pick up the phone, talk to somebody, and get a meeting. And they may also be great in the meeting. But I had bankers in my past, and I've worked with some title reps today, they can get the meeting, and then the meeting always goes off the rails. So if I'm the manager of that person, or I'm the owner of that person, how can they tie me or someone on the team who's great in the meeting and position that like we're coming to the meeting together? And we're meeting with that meeting together, because they're great at getting the person to the meeting, but they're not the best closer. So how do you build a process where your best closers can close and your best lead gen people can lead gen? So when it comes to sales, that's an example. But it comes to ops too. I mean, you all have the processors and the funders that are like on it, but you know there's this person would never be a good funder because they have an issue with that. We've all seen this type of stuff. So when it comes to that, it's just you have conversations with your team. They've identified what they're great at. You know what they're great at. You all come to agreement of like, we're going to leverage you more here. You're going to be more in the paint, taking the rebounds, getting the layups, and you're going to be out here doing the three-point shot. And then I'm going to be over here on the bench cheering you guys on, and then this person over here is the cheerleader. They're going to just get the crowd and getting everyone hyped up, right? So you're really identifying roles.
Around and get everybody.
Yeah. So you're really identifying. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. But it's really like, and that takes teamwork. And in this industry, what I realize, there's a lot of me, mine, ours. Yeah. Like, this is mine, right? And sometimes with the team selling, that's where you can really apply strength finders, in my opinion. Owner, manager coming in with the salesperson to help where there are gaps, as opposed to constantly hammering them. Why do you never get closings out of meetings, you know? Yeah. And it's like, well, maybe we need to go show them how to do it. Do some show coaching, show up with them. So again, I hope that answers it, but great question, yeah.
We have time for one more, and then we'll wrap this up. Was there one more hand up here? No? We're good? We got it all? And sometimes one question answers the other. I want to say thank you. So back to Mike, back to your question. So these QR codes, like when we get done with the training, this one goes to my LinkedIn. So every time I do a training, I say, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn. So there's just another way that when you do a CE presentation to real estate agents or whatever, where are you pulling them into? Get your QR codes up. Like leverage that so that you're not going back having to go recircle back with everybody. Get them. Because the ones who really are interested, they'll connect with you and then go have coffee with them ASAP. So that's just one practical case in point. And I was fumbling with the slides back here to get that up there. But thanks to Fidelity, MLTA, obviously, and also I'd be amiss not to shout out to our friends Andy and April for the Closing Lock socks. They are officially the sponsor of the podcast today. But thank you guys very much.
Awesome.